Hope so. So good morning, everyone, and I am going to talk a little bit about the international perspective. Maybe I am a little bit off in relation with the project. That was the reason I wanted to stay here yesterday to see how the project went. And in any case, we are very interested in this project, and I take the opportunity to thank the organizers, the directors of the project, and you all for supporting us yesterday here. This is the short presentation that I have. Just what is the UNCCD, what is in the international negotiation arena, the issue of land degradation neutrality, the sustainable development goals, and a little bit on land and climate change. As you know, the convention is an international binding convention that links environment and sustainable development. And as it was agreed in Rio, the mandate of the convention is to combat desertification and mitigate the effects of drought in countries experiencing serious and drought and or desertification, particularly in Africa. It's titled like this big, but we call it UNCCD. And the rest of the mandate is with the view of contributing to the achievement of sustainable development. And this is the important part. Well, everything is important, but that nails the thing down. The Article 1 of the Convention defines several concepts and has definitions. It includes what is land, what is soil, what is drought, but also what is combating desertification. And in this one is combating desertification addresses the three issues of prevention, rehabilitation, and reclamation. Okay. This is important too. And as the text of the convention is in our website, if you want to have a look at it, it's in the 6 UN languages. Okay. The convention complements the Climate Change and Biodiversity Convention that came out of Rio 1992 as well. And in the Millennium Development Goals, there is a conceptual framework on how the three conventions work together. But in addition to the Climate Change and Biodiversity Conventions, with the new actors and the new processes coming out of in the international arena, the convention also works with them in not only in the monitoring of land degradation, the assessment of land degradation and reporting on actions on land degradation, prevention and rehabilitation. Like, for example, the Global Soil Partnership of FAO, the IPBES, the Intergovernmental Panel on Biodiversity and Ecosystem Services, the GCF, the Green Climate Fund, and a lot of other institutions, in addition to the two other sister conventions. In Rio Plus 20, 20 years later, after the convention was agreed upon, was ratified in 1994, then 20 years later, in Rio Plus 20, 2 years ago, the UN members agreed on this paragraph 206, that says, we recognize the need for urgent action to reverse land degradation. In view of this, we will strive to achieve land degradation neutral world in the context of sustainable development. This should act, it says, to catalyze financial resources from a range of public and private sources. So what is this issue of land degradation? Land degradation is a simple concept. It negotiates trade-off and leverage synergies, and at the same time aims at optimizing the delivery of nature services among competing actors. I have something written down here for that, well, I cannot find it right now, but the issue is that there are many realized and unrealized opportunities that land degradation neutrality can address, and maybe we will. It is my expectation that in the panel we will address this issue as well. But land degradation neutrality boils down to sustainable land management. Key issue for land degradation neutrality, to achieving land degradation neutrality, is adopting sustainable land management practices, but not only to adopt them, but to scale them up. And this, I have mentioned here 4 of the issues that directly refer to and address the sustainable land management benefits: improvement agricultural yields, abandoned agricultural land, we heard about this yesterday, the promotion of agroforestry, conservation agriculture, water harvesting, and the governance application of the property, the rights-based approach. And this is very important because sustainable land management and land degradation neutrality refers to also the opportunities that are out there that are not only agricultural opportunities. The economics of land degradation study mentions that in the degraded areas in the world, there are like 50% of the income of those working, living, the inhabitants of the degraded areas, their incomes come from other sources than agriculture in a 50% ratio. So this is important to consider as well, the issue of the sustainable land management and the rights-based approach. But there are other opportunities that sustainable land management brings. For example, the reaching the potential of the agricultural yield. There is the closing. Sorry that I refer to the economics of land degradation when we have here a person that is more versed on that one. But that study refers and mentions that closing the yield gap will report on benefits, immediate economic benefits. And for example, the figure that they have in ELD is that they argue that closing most of the agricultural yield gap through sustainable land management could deliver up to $1.4 trillion of increased crop production. This is not only true in the developed countries, but also in the developing world. The example used in this study is like the case of Malawi in Africa. Malawi, they have improved from 700 kilograms per hectare to 1,500 to 2,000 kilograms per hectare, more than doubling the yield with less dependencies on fertilizers and higher household income, just by adding fuel, wood, and tree crops to the agricultural practices. But also in Europe and developed countries, the common agricultural policy of the EU and the US Department of Agriculture are encouraging as well agroforestry and to diversify from incomes and harness the ecological services that trees provide. So this is just some examples on this one. So when we are talking about when we talk about sustainable land management, we are talking about sustainable agriculture. Okay, so which one is this? Is the industrial agriculture and the sustainable agriculture? We are aiming at, with the resources that you have, with the capital that you have, considering soil as a capital, natural capital, you can achieve sustainable agriculture and improve your incomes. In the case of industrial agriculture, I just refer to this picture that you can take out from the internet. This is the 1930s Dust Bowl in the US, and this was a result of the modernization of the agricultural landscape in the Midwest of the US, and very quickly the Dust Bowl was generated. But many lessons we have drawn from this experience that we can use today. So the land degradation neutrality that is being fostered in the international arena is a holistic view and includes, of course, soil management and use. And this refers not only to the extreme droughts that happened in San Francisco this year, or the extreme floods that happened in the UK this year. So it's about the ecosystem services. What is the provision of the provisioning of these services, and what is the acting upon these services provided by the ecosystem? In the sense that acting for sure is more beneficial, it provides more benefits than not acting. But also, I am just an advocate of the ELD. Maybe the colleague will talk about more about this. Let me just address finally a little bit of climate change, adaptation, and land. As you know, this is an asseveration that we got from publications that climate change is changing abnormally fast and could disrupt not only our livelihoods but our security as well, from our economies, from our environment, and from the way we do things, our culture. Land is a part of land, including soil, vegetation, and water, is vulnerable to climate change. Land degradation, we propose that land degradation is exacerbated, is increased by climate change. But desertification and climate change also, desertification also reinforces climate change when you lose, for example, soil organic matter. So there is some feedback loop within these two. And as using carbon as an indicator, we can tell you, I can tell you that scientists have mentioned that plant organic matter is sequestered in soil more than 4 times than plants and animals on Earth than in the atmosphere. So we have soil is almost as twice as the forest carbon sequestration and the atmosphere. But this is some issue that is not included still in the negotiation process of 2015. As I mentioned in maybe I didn't mention, but 2015 there will be the agreement of the Sustainable Development Goals. At the same time, there will be a new agreement on climate change. And this new agreement on climate change that was not possible in Copenhagen some years ago, do you think should include the carbons containing soils as well? Perhaps this is something that they are considering. But in any case, we are putting it on the table for them to consider. We are not the negotiator, we are just a secretary of one international treaty. So, but this climate change issue it doesn't have boundaries. It's not something that is local and then it's not federal, it's not international. All of us are affected with this. So either we are rich or we are poor. We have to act upon this climate change adaptation standing on the land issue, the land and soil issue. So we are standing on this land and soil issue and we are talking about climate change. And the conclusion is it possible for us to agree on a target or a sustainable development goal that contains, within its framework, that contains the issue of land and soil? There are several SDGs suggested by the Open Working Group of the United Nations that came out a couple of weeks ago. Perhaps in the food security SDG, or perhaps also not exclusive, but including the water security, or maybe the energy security SDGs, or perhaps on the cross-cutting issue, or as you said yesterday, the horizontal approach of climate change, or the property rights. So there are at least 5 opportunities in which land and soil could be tabled in the SDG framework. At this moment, there is nothing. There is no reference to land and soils in the Sustainable Development Goals. There is only a small reference, indirect reference in the proposed focus area on food security. But we think that in any case, the features of this target or goal should have a couple of features. It has to address local action. We think it's better to act than not to act, and at the local level is the way of doing it. Okay, we are in the global arena, but we have to think how to act at the local level. It has to be a multidimensional participation, multi-stakeholder, not only the government, not only the private sector, not only the cooperation, or the NGOs. It has to be all the land users, all those that have a stake on land have to participate. And this has to be multidisciplinary. We don't need only economists or biologists or ornithologists. We need politicians as well. We need businessmen and women. So this inclusiveness issue is a very important approach on a possible component on land and soils into an SDG. And how can we come up with standard methodologies? in this one, is it possible for the three conventions, biodiversity, climate change, and desertification, to come up with a couple of common indicators that could be used for not only to identifying the phenomenon, but also addressing it and reporting on it, monitoring on it. And as we are right now, the three conventions have three different processes, and when you look at this from the point of view of a developing country, very small developing country, it creates a burden. So this issue also could be included for effectiveness in the local action. And with this, thank you very much.